If you've been feeling tired, no matter how much you sleep, your muscles ache, you catch every cold that comes around, or your mood just hasn't been the same, one nutrient gets overlooked all the time, and that's vitamin D. Now here's something most people don't realize. Vitamin D isn't really just a vitamin. It behaves more like a hormone. Nearly every cell in your body has receptors for it. That means it doesn't just affect your bones. It affects your immune system, your muscles, your brain, your hormones, and even how well your cells communicate with one another. The tricky part, many people who are low in vitamin D don't realize it. The symptoms usually sneak up on you. They get blamed on aging, stress, poor sleep, or simply being busy. I'm Dr. Matt Mason, chiropractor, acupuncturist, and functional medicine practitioner. Today, let's go through 10 signs that may suggest your body isn't getting enough vitamin D. Now, these don't automatically mean you're low in vitamin D, but if several of these sound familiar, it may be worth having your levels checked. And toward the end, I'll explain the best test to ask for, what an optimal level generally looks like, and the safest ways to improve it. Let's start with one that I probably hear every single week. Number 1, you're tired all the time. Not just sleepy, but mentally and physically drained. You wake up exhausted, you need caffeine just to function. By afternoon, you're ready for a nap. Here's why this may happen. Vitamin D helps many tissues function efficiently, including your muscles, your immune system, and your nervous system. When levels become low, your body just doesn't work as efficiently. It's a little like trying to drive your car with the parking brake partially engaged. The engine still runs, but everything takes more effort. And several studies have found an association between vitamin D deficiency and fatigue. And many people notice meaningful improvements after correcting a deficiency, especially if they were truly deficient to begin with. So if you're constantly tired, don't just assume it's age or stress or poor motivation. It's worth looking deeper. Now here's something interesting. Fatigue is often followed by another complaint. People tell me, my whole body just hurts. That brings us to number 2, muscle aches, weakness, or muscle fatigue. Maybe your legs feel heavy walking upstairs. Maybe your shoulders burn carrying groceries. Maybe your muscles just don't recover like they used to. Vitamin D helps regulate normal muscle function. Without enough of it, muscle fibers don't contract efficiently. Over time, weakness can become noticeable. Now, people with severe vitamin D deficiency often have measurable muscle weakness, and that's been shown repeatedly in research, especially in larger muscles and around the hips and thighs. That may not sound like a big deal, but those muscles help you stand, walk, climb stairs, and maintain your balance. We'll come back to balance in a few minutes, because that's another important clue. But before that, let's talk about something that surprises many people. Number 3, bone pain or frequent fractures. When most people think of vitamin D, they think of calcium, and they're partly right. Vitamin D helps your intestines absorb calcium from food. Without enough vitamin D, you may absorb much less than your body needs. So what happens? Your body starts borrowing calcium from your bones. So think of your bones like a savings account. If you keep making withdrawals without enough deposits, eventually the account becomes depleted. Over time, your bones can become weaker. And in more severe cases, adults can develop a condition called osteomalacia, which literally means softening of the bones. And long-term deficiency also contributes to osteoporosis, increasing fracture risks, especially as we age. If you've noticed persistent deep aching bones, especially in your hips, legs, or your lower back, don't ignore it. Now, before we move on, here's something many people never connect to vitamin D. Mood. Number 4, feeling down, more anxious, or struggling with low mood. Now, let's be clear. Vitamin D deficiency is not the only cause of depression. Mental health is complicated. Sleep, stress, hormones, life events, medical conditions, and brain chemistry all play important roles. But researchers have found that vitamin D receptors exist throughout the brain. Low vitamin D has been associated with depression in many studies, and whether supplementing improves mood depends on the individual. The strongest benefits tend to occur in people who are truly deficient. So if you've noticed changes in your mood, especially during winter, or if you spend very little time outdoors, vitamin D is certainly worth exploring. Now, speaking of the winter, that brings us to one of vitamin D's biggest jobs, supporting your immune system. Number 5, you seem to catch every cold, every virus, every bug that's going around. Your immune system is amazingly complex. Vitamin D helps regulate both your innate immune system, your first line of defense, and your adaptive immune system, which creates more targeted responses. Think of vitamin D like part of the communication system between immune cells. So, without good communication, the response may not be as balanced or as efficient. And research suggests that correcting vitamin D deficiency may reduce the risk of certain respiratory infections, especially those who start out deficient. Again, it's not a magic shield. It won't prevent every illness, but healthy vitamin D levels are one piece of a healthy immune system. Now here's one that often catches people off guard. Number 6, your wounds seem slow to heal after surgery, dental work, or even small cuts. Healing is a complicated process. It requires immune cells, healthy inflammation, collagen production, and tissue remodeling. And vitamin D plays a role in several of these processes. So if you've noticed that bruises, cuts, or minor injuries seem to linger much longer than expected, it may be another clue worth paying attention to. Now let's talk about something I mentioned earlier, balance. Number 7, you're feeling weaker, less steady, or you're falling more often. This is especially important as we get older. Falls are one of the leading causes of serious injury in older adults. Vitamin D supports muscle strength, reaction time, and coordination. And many studies have shown that correcting deficiency can improve muscle performance in older adults, especially those with low levels. Better muscle function often means better stability, which means fewer falls. Now, if you're under 50, don't tune out. Balance isn't just about aging. Even younger people sometimes tell me they just don't feel as strong or as capable as they used to. Now here's another sign that many people dismiss. Number 8, hair thinning or increased hair shedding. This is an area where we need to be honest about the science. Hair loss has many causes: iron deficiency, thyroid disorders, stress, hormonal changes, genetics, certain medications, and nutritional deficiencies. And many studies have found an association between low vitamin D and certain types of hair loss, even including alopecia areata. But we can't say vitamin D deficiency causes most hair loss. That evidence just isn't strong enough to say that. But if someone has unexplained hair shedding, checking vitamin D along with iron, ferritin, and thyroid function may be reasonable depending on the situation. Now let's move to another symptom that people often describe. Number 9, chronic back pain or widespread body pain. Vitamin D deficiency doesn't explain every painful back, not even close. Disc injuries, arthritis, muscle strain, poor posture, and many other conditions are much more common. But persistent diffuse aching, especially when combined with fatigue, muscle weakness, and low mood, should raise the question, could vitamin D be contributing? Again, not the only answer, but it's one important piece of the puzzle. Now let's finish with one that almost nobody thinks about. You rarely get any meaningful sunlight. Now that's not a symptom, but it's one of the biggest risk factors. Your skin naturally produces vitamin D when it's exposed to UV rays from sunlight. But think about how we live today. Many people leave home before sunrise, work indoors all day, drive home after work, exercise inside, wear sunscreen, or live in the northern climates where the winter sunlight isn't strong enough to produce much vitamin D. And as we get older, our skin also becomes less efficient at making vitamin D. And people with darker skin generally require more sun exposure to produce the same amount. Also, obesity can lower the amount of vitamin D available to the body because more becomes stored in fat tissue. Certain digestive problems like celiac disease, Crohn's disease, certain bariatric surgeries, and some medications can also reduce absorption of vitamin D. So how do you know for sure? You test. The blood test most physicians order is called 25-hydroxy vitamin D test. That's considered the best indicator of your body's vitamin D stores. Many labs define deficiency less than 20 nanograms per milliliter. Insufficiency is often considered between 20 and 29, and many functional medicine practitioners aim somewhere between 40 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. I personally aim for 80 nanograms per milliliter. So how can you improve your levels? First, safe sunlight exposure. For many people, short periods of midday sun exposed to your arms and your legs can help. The exact amount, well, that depends on your skin tone, latitude, season, cloud cover, your age, and sunscreen use. Second, food. There actually aren't many foods that naturally contain much vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, and trout are the best sources. Egg yolks also have some vitamin D. But for many people, diet alone isn't enough, which brings us to supplements. Vitamin D3 is preferred over vitamin D2 because it tends to raise blood levels more effectively. And in many cases, I also think it's a great idea to pair vitamin D3 with vitamin K2 because vitamin D helps your body absorb more calcium, while K2 helps direct that calcium to where it's needed most, like your bones and your teeth, rather than allowing it to accumulate in soft tissue. Vitamin D is one of the few vitamins that can become excessive if taken in very high amounts for prolonged periods. Too much vitamin D can raise your calcium levels, and that can become dangerous. That's why I always recommend testing, treating, and then retesting. Know your numbers, don't guess. So let's quickly recap. If you've been dealing with persistent fatigue, muscle weakness, bone pain, low mood, frequent illnesses, slow healing, poor balance, hair thinning, chronic body aches, or you simply spend very little time in the sun, vitamin D is definitely something worth looking into. Not because it's the answer to everything, but because it's common, it's measurable, and when it's truly deficient, correcting it can make a meaningful difference. If there's one thing I want you to remember from today's video, it's this. Don't chase symptoms. Look for the reason they're happening. Your body usually gives you clues before it gives you a diagnosis. So the first step, get your vitamin D level checked. It's a simple blood test, and it may provide an important piece of the puzzle. And if you found this helpful, please subscribe. It really helps support the channel and allows me to keep creating evidence-based videos like this. And if you're wondering what vitamin D should actually be taken with and which nutrients work together, you're going to want to watch my next video. I'll see you there.